Power 98.7, progressively elevating the conversation. Now we're talking.
It's 27 minutes before 8, and in just a moment we'll go to our power suit for this Thursday evening, and that is the B20 co-chair, the Business 20 co-chair, Mxolisi. Of course, he's also been a former CEO of Exxaro Resources. He's also formerly the president of the Minerals Council of South Africa, and currently as well serves as the president of Business Unity South Africa. A lot to share about the last year and the process towards B20 and the recommendations that they've put forward. Let's just look at this story now, with a battle brewing over the future of online shopping. And this, of course, is as the tech giants gear up to use an AI helpers. And Google, Amazon, and OpenAI are seeing artificial intelligence really as a major commercial driver in order to do online shopping. And it's going to become really core, where you can just type into a search bar, and then the AI will recommend based on, of course, the kinds of ads that have been placed, the people who are paying for those search results to go straight to the top of the AI. So shopping is one of the main things that Americans currently do online, and consumers are increasingly using AI to figure out what they should buy, including the kinds of reviews that products get. And Amazon and Google are trying to defend their market share against OpenAI and other AI companies. And so as of September, US-based users can buy Etsy products directly from ChatGPT. That keeps them in the chatbot for longer. And OpenAI and Walmart have announced a similar partnership. There's also some news coming out that AI and online agents are expected to be involved in 73 billion rand worth of global online sales. And of course, this comes as AI, the companies investing billions in AI are trying to monetize. There's been some concern that it could be a bubble, an investment bubble. They may not be able to commercialize, or they may not be as successful as they'd hoped. But what they're trying to do now is to see the different ways. And already with online shopping, that could make a massive, massive dent in the types of commercialization that they want to drive. Imagine going on using a chatbot and saying, I want to book a flight to Cape Town, and then the agent, the OpenAI agent, books the cheapest flight to Cape Town using the search results that have been brought up in the AI. And that would be very lucrative for AI as well as the companies. And you can imagine the kinds of competition issues that would be likely to bring up, because the big companies would, of course, be able to pay for their search results to be brought right to the fore. Well, let's go to our power suit this week, because it is so timely, of course. Mxolisi is the co-chair of the B20, and the Business 20 serves as the official G20 dialogue forum with the global business community. He's also president of Business Unity South Africa, former CEO of Exxaro Resources, and he joins us now to talk to us a little bit more about what's come out so far from the B20, and also what to expect from the B20 summit. Thanks so much, Mxolisi, for making the time. I imagine things are quite hectic with the B20 summit taking place in Sandton next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Well, firstly, let me just say thank you for the invite, Tehillah, and also to the listeners. Yes, we are at that very critical last stage now, where we have already not only worked through the year to put together all the final recommendations, which really was an outcome of global CEOs and other network partners and knowledge partners around the represented within the G20 countries working together to put these recommendations. But by and large, we have now presented those recommendations to the president, and of course, we are now really at that stage where from around the middle of September, we've been doing a lot of advocacy work around the issues that are contained within those recommendations. Yeah, so next week is going to be it's already a very hectic week even right now because obviously, as I'm talking to you, this is part of the work that we are doing using various platforms just to promote the work that we've been doing.
So I was really struck by the thoroughness of those recommendations. 8 task teams, 3 enablers, several different themes, and working on so many different recommendations. Of course, there were different task forces. What was the process like, working with different people who might have been wanting to pull in different directions?
It's actually, this whole process has become a really well-oiled machinery, because remember the B20 is an outcome of at the event after the event of the financial crisis back in 2008. So the whole G20 B20 was established then. So we are the last of the countries or that are in the cycle of the B20. So by the time we get to us, you are talking about a machinery that is really well oiled. I mean, we were party to the work that was done in Brazil last year in terms of their B20. So everybody understands what's at hand. And of course, I think what had become very, very interesting in this particular B20 G20 cycle is the fact that although most of the issues that we are talking to are really global issues around trade, finance, they talk about digital, they talk about skills, but what was very, very uh, uh, what changed the dynamics and the environment, obviously this year at the beginning of the year, was the geopolitics that have ensued since the beginning of the year, which meant that everything was really being turned upside down. We have to look at how now, given the fact that, there's lack of available funding for various initiatives that had been funded by before, then how does that now money come in terms of the various multilateral institutions that have provided money before, but now there's lack of capacity for those type of funding. So now it talks about how the private sector now for the first time also gets brought in to participate in the blended financing. So yes, it has been a very, very interesting year, a very turbulent year, but by and large, from the B side, because we don't get involved on the politics of the G side, but on the B side, we've been working very, very well within our task forces with our American counterparts, business counterparts, and who will be taking over of the presidency of the B20 on the 1st of December. We've been working with them in terms of the transition period, handover period, and just as we did in Brazil when Kaz and I went and spent some time there with our team there, so we've been doing the same with them on this side. But more important, what we are also doing is that we have now ensured that all the recommendations don't only just are recommendations without any action associated with them. We've made sure that all and every single recommendation and initiatives have got KPIs that can be measured, because we want to now move from just pronouncements to things that are actionable, and then we can monitor and track that. And the way we are looking at doing that is we've established what is called a troika type of arrangement, where the Sherpas from the previous B20s get together, like we've had Brazil, ourselves, and the US now saying, okay, how do we, these recommendations, which we've put in place to ensure that there's continuity, because some of these recommendations, they take years to actually implement. So you can't just leave them and hope that all the best for the best. So we are trying to come up with we've tried to come up with mechanisms as to how we ensure that there's continuity on those policies that still needs to be implemented, but we need to be able to also track the progress and make sure that on the year on year, when we report back, we can demonstrate that there has been progress.
And I think that's what everyone's looking to come from the G20 is actually progress, is actually implementation. Mxolisi, you mentioned the public-private partnerships that were so necessary for this B20 given the geopolitics, and public-private partnerships was one of the 3 enabling mechanisms that the B20 put forward. as well
Yes,
as in Busa. Busa's been very involved in various capacities, especially around Operation Vulindlela. Talk to
right.
us. When we spoke to Kosatu yesterday, coming out of the medium-term budget speech, and even Kosatu is welcoming private sector involvement in the key network areas of the economy like Transnet, Eskom. Talk to us a little bit more about how this comes about, any risks that you might see with public-private partnerships, and a very strong endorsement, really, from the finance minister yesterday.
Well, I think one has to give context to how this big public-private partnership really came to its from creation. You'll recall at the advent of the COVID pandemic, we as a country really found ourselves in a situation whereby if we didn't pool our collective resources as a country, we were not going to be in a very good place to actually come up with a solution to deal with this crisis. And of course, when we know the devastation effect of the crisis, that it doesn't discriminate between whether you're rich or whether you're poor or whatever color you are, it was just decimating our people in a big way. So in that instance, we then as business said, we need to actually come and join hands with our government and just look at ways and find ways to actually deal with this pandemic. So hence that's where now where this partnership really germinated from, and being a crisis subsequent now to the post the pandemic. We said, well, we've got this platform under BUSA, which is called Business for South Africa, which worked very well, by the way, to place South Africa amongst the top 5 countries that had that really had the best COVID response as per the WHO. So we said we've got a mechanism, a platform. How do we utilize this platform now to deal with other crises? So we engaged with government and we said, well, there are 3 critical things that we have to solve for as a country in terms of where we were. And that was dealing with the huge load shedding that was happening, and also the transport and logistics and crime and corruption. So again, we established these 3 focal areas, and we also now added a 4th one that we said it has to be under a structure that reports directly to the presidency, where we meet and jointly work on various initiatives. So we put into different teams. And there was the one that was looking after working and supporting Eskom to trying to turn around Eskom. And I was one of, and that was CEO led with CEO sponsors leading that from the business side. And then I was part of the 3 CEOs that were leading the turnaround of and supporting and working with Operation Vulindlela under the National Logistics Crisis Committee to actually help in the turnaround of Transnet and also bringing in the structural reforms within the transport and logistics sector. And there's a crime and corruption one. So there's another one now dealing specifically on unemployment. And so this is the partnership we are talking about. And this partnership has actually been recognized. Even Brazil themselves, within their communique, they actually recognize how this partnership is a model. This government business partnership is a model really for dealing with a lot of issues, whether we're talking about growth, and that's the next phase that we really need to talk to amongst ourselves as the government and business and civil society, to say, how do we partner to actually now look at some of these recommendations, look at what we need to do to actually alleviate a lot of the challenges that we are confronted with, and also using it as a North Star to drive growth. We need to have a North Star. So this recommendation have to result in action to actually solve what they aim to solve, but at the same time with a clear focus of driving growth and economic prosperity for all of us here in South Africa. But of course, this is not a South African B20 G20, it's an African one. So we also have to understand that with the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, how does that all now play into really fostering and enabling that framework and the outcomes that we want to see, where now Africa itself can become really the powerhouse from an economic bloc, because Africa represents probably the largest economic bloc if we just can get this thing to work right. So yes, there's a lot that we still have to do. I mean, the summit is but the end of a process, but the real work starts after the summit.
There's going to be a lot of work, of course, after that summit. And South Africa really trying to showcase Africa throughout this period, throughout the presidency. And you've worked with a lot of African business leaders that you've spoken about. And I think sometimes we don't speak often enough about African business leaders. We spend a lot of time talking about political leaders on the continent. We had our fair share of challenges around that, of course. But what role do you see African business leaders taking up on the continent increasingly?
You know what? I must say, it's been a really eye-opener for me during this process, just to see what innovation is taking place within Africa. A lot of great things are being done in Africa. Some of them have leapfrogged even the traditional areas of commerce. You know, the informal sector in Africa is thriving. They're leveraging the digital platforms, digital financial platform to trade amongst themselves, creating the ability to determine their financial credit worthiness. Because remember, our African traders, they work in cash. So now imagine you take individuals working in cash, and they've got this digital platform that enable them to be able to use that to show the ability to actually trade, and the fact that they're actually a list of the risks that normally, credit departments of financial institutions see as a risk. So it suddenly now brings a new dynamic, because everything now is data driven. You can actually see the actual activity, and you can see that no, there is actually a less risk in some instances to actually lend to that informal sector than you would to your traditional sector. And I mean, you've got banks like Capitec who've seen that for quite a long time, and they actually entered into a market where other banks were not prepared to, because of the fact that it was seen as high risk areas. And look at how they've been able to really transform those sectors. So part of what we are looking is now how do we leverage digital technologies right across, not only for trade, but also for skilling, for education, for all forms of activity that can really change the playing field.
You know, Mxolisi, on Power Suit, we usually ask questions about people's background, business leaders' backgrounds. And I think it's always illuminating for people to hear the different journeys that business leaders have walked. Today, of course, we focused a lot on the B20, on the current issues on the table, because it is so topical. But you've had a background in computer science. You've studied as well in several different countries. You've worked in banking and mining, which are still two of the most important sectors driving South Africa's economy. So how does this background, how's it helped you navigate the co-chairship of the B20, current presidency of BUSA?
Well, yeah, no, I must say sometimes you don't always plot your future. You find sometimes that, you find yourself in some situations and in circumstances which you never even dreamt of. Okay, and I think my own journey has been one of changing careers. Went from software engineer, that's what I studied, computer science, you're quite right, and did that, and I was a software engineer for a number of years, working both here and overseas. And then I decided to go into banking, not because I didn't like computers, it's just because of the fact that I knew that I was not a computer geek, and I'm not sure I wanted to be hitting code for the rest of my life. So I went into banking. I didn't know anything about banking, so I had to learn banking from scratch. And I was involved in banking for a number of years, and at Societe Generale. And while I was there, I happened to be introduced to Sipho Nkosi, who was putting a team together to bid for some mining assets that were put together by Anglo and Ingwe, and he invited me. And I told him that I think you've got the wrong guy because I know nothing about mining. He says, well, you know, I'd come along anyway. So I got into mining. And I became the marketing and logistics manager. And that's where I really got to learn a lot about, you know, the importance of really getting to understand the core parts of your business. Because if you're going to market a product, you better understand how it's made. You've got to understand the global aspects that influence your product, the markets, and all of that. And with that, with the and also looking at the shifts that are taking place, global shifts that are taking place with renewable energy coming on board, being a coal company. Remember now you're saying, okay, it's coal, there's renewables, and instead of saying, well, you know what, we're going to die, we said, well, let's rather also pivot, also whilst being a coal company and start building an energy business. So we got into renewables at the same time. So we're probably first mining company, especially a coal company in South Africa, to have renewable energy assets. So it's always been about looking for opportunities to create and pivot and read and assess and then find out where is the future, what are those things that are busy shaping the future, and also be cognizant of the fact that what may seem impossible today or does not seem likely even tomorrow, if it's a blip on the radar, you can be sure of one thing. It says that there are people who are looking at this and there are people who are working on it. Are they going to be game changers? Are going to be the things that are going to be your disruptors? And so you always have to be looking at how and what are going to be your disruptors to your business. And instead of shying away and putting your head in the sand and thinking that it's not going to happen to you, you better start disrupting yourself. Okay. So with that, we've built the first, what I would really call a digital mine in South Africa. So for me, what it has been very exciting about this journey is the fact that one has been immersed with so many global business leaders. You know, I mean, these are companies, these are leaders who if you look at their market caps, and I mean, we just like we are just a pittance in the bigger picture, but these are people that you are working with, you're solving global problems with, coming up with solutions, and hopefully ways of how we can play a much more meaningful role in this, really in shaping the global future. One thing I can say to you is this, you know, South Africa, and I don't like this word, we punch above our weight, or because it's as though we are lightweights. We are
Yeah.
not lightweights. Just look into a lot of companies outside South Africa. Who are the CEOs of those companies? They are South Africans, a lot of them, big multinationals. And so we do have the people. We just need to create the right environment where our people can even thrive more and do more. And really, for me, what has been very exciting about this whole journey is to recognize that as South Africa, we are a very unique country, and a lot of people actually envy our country, not only for what and our resilience, but just for the beauty of this country, the people of this country, and therefore we've got a lot going for ourselves. But we are our own biggest critics. You know, we always see the negative, that we don't see the positive. And then I think it is time, and maybe it's our own fault of not always sharing the good things that we are doing. The fact that we were able to deal with the crisis of things like electricity. We are working now on water. We're looking at how we deal with water and how also we're going to support in terms of dealing with the issues of the municipal governments, you know, the ineffectiveness of those institutions. So we are always looking at ways of how we can roll our sleeves up and also making sure that we can contribute to the future of this country.
So just as we wrap up, of course, you've mentioned many of the things that you're involved in, how hectic it's been over the last year with the B20. How do you unwind? How do you chill?
Yeah, no, I try to keep on a bike. I try not to fall a lot. I do a mountain biking. That's my passion. And I started quite late riding a bike at I think I was 52. So
So it's
but I
never too
enjoy
late
it.
to learn how to ride a bike?
No. I knew how to ride, but I just couldn't.
Sure.
Mountain biking was a new area of my love, so that's what I do. Keep fit, and I do Pilates to keep fit. So I'm trying as much as I can to make sure that I can at least grow graciously.
Pilates is an amazing form of exercise. It doesn't look like one's doing much, but then you can actually just see your body changing every week after Pilates. And so just a book, we ask everyone in your chair, Mxolisi, in the hot seat, what a book you're currently reading or a book that you found inspiring?
Look, look. There's many books that inspire me, but the one book that I'm really reading right now, given the fact that there are a lot of business books, there's a lot of spiritual books, but the thing that I'm really focusing on right now is a book called the AI Driven Leadership. Is how to understand the future of AI, what it means for us as individuals, what it means for society, the responsibilities that come with really understanding how AI in itself can be misused, and what sort of ethical standards we need to bring in, that really came out of some of the work that we are doing within the B20 on the integrity committee, that's the sub task force. So it's really understanding this tool and how best to leverage this tool, but also in a very responsible way that is not going to impede and infringe on society at large. Because right now, one of my biggest fears is the fact that this app with it's so easy to use AI for the wrong reasons,
Absolutely.
for the wrong purpose.
Absolutely. And that is such an important thing that entire society, business leaders, government leaders, civil society, we're all going to have to watch in the future. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to Mxolisi Mgojo, the co-chair of the B20. Very busy week ahead for B20 with the summit taking place in Sandton Convention Centre, at the Sandton Convention Centre, Tuesday and Wednesday. Thanks so much for being on the show. Well, that's it from the Power Business team. We have to get out of here. We were running a minute late for the news. It's been such a wonderful week on the show. Hectic week on the markets, hectic week in terms of economic news. And next week is going to even be more busy with the G20. Thanks so much to this brilliant team, Bokosi Niselow as well as Tletle. Good night. We'll see you back on Monday, same time, 6 to 8 p.m.